Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Business Newsletter Recap, your highlight reel of business newsletter content. I'm your host and business nerd, Nathan Pohl, and I'm excited to release episode 3. I run Google, YouTube, and Facebook ads for Tommy's Express by day and curate the best editions from dozens of newsletters by night, so you can catch up on top business content on the go. Each episode, I'll be featuring specific editions of 2 to 3 newsletters that I found the most insightful. If any newsletter is particularly beneficial to you, I will have links in the show notes to follow the creators on social media and to sign up for the newsletter yourself. If you missed episode 1 and 2, we had some great insights on pricing and positioning, the use of limits, how to eliminate distractions, and insights on consumer behavior. So be sure to check those out if you haven't listened to them already. We're starting off today with a selection from Amanda Goetz's Life's a Game newsletter. Amanda has an extremely impressive marketing and entrepreneurial resume that has grown her following to hundreds of thousands on social media. Her newsletter is focused on helping high-achieving leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs avoid burnout and grow their careers. Over 100,000 people receive her newsletter, and we've got a great edition picked out for today. Amanda titled one of her recent newsletter editions, How I Work 3 Hours a Day. Now, I've read Atomic Habits by James Clear and Redeeming Your Time by Jordan Rayner, and even a strict follower of their tips and guidelines would do well to work 3 hours per day. So I was naturally intrigued. She then really got my attention when she explained how her current work habits were forged in college, where she worked 4 jobs, planned her own wedding, and kept up a 3.9 GPA. The first tactic she suggests is time blocking. Pick a time, preferably earlier in the day when you have a lot of energy. The most important part is defining an end time. She repeats Parkinson's law, which states that work expands to the time allowed. Recalling her days at Ernst & Young working long hours, Amanda shares that most people really worked long hours because they didn't want to leave before the partners did at night, and so their work took up the entire day, instead of a few hours that they probably could have accomplished everything in if they blocked off time for deep work. Giving yourself a shorter deadline drives urgency and prioritization while maximizing efficiency. No surprise by the title of her newsletter edition, Amanda's time block is 3 hours every day. The second thing that Amanda does, which is even more important than the actual time block, is knowing what to do ahead of time. She suggests focusing on 2 big rocks per time block of work that will create the most impact for your business. If you can accomplish more than that, great. But if not, you will know that you accomplished your 2 most important things every day, even if it took all of your working time to accomplish them. Amanda also emphasizes that these 2 big rocks should be decided ahead of time so that you don't spend time thinking about what to do during your most important working time of the day, or worse yet, get sucked into checking emails and responding to messages. This leads to her third point, avoiding distractions. Amanda suggests turning off notifications, setting devices to Do Not Disturb, and closing all tabs that aren't related to your 2 main tasks to stay laser-focused during your work time. The point is to reduce context switching in your brain. It can take 5 to 10 minutes when switching in between tasks to get to a state of peak productivity, meaning checking your email twice and looking over your results from a past project could cost you almost a half hour of time. And that assumes that you only get sidetracked 3 times and don't answer a personal text or take a call from a coworker. This is why project management is a full-time job for large teams. There's a lot of heads-down work that goes into development sprints, marketing campaigns, and end-of-year financial reports. Lots of specialists will spend hours on these things just doing the work, but there are hours of coordination, planning, and reporting that need to happen outside of that, which a PM helps take care of. They are there to save other team members that cost of switching between tasks. By this point, you might be questioning where she gets the rest of her small but necessary tasks done. Everyone has emails to respond to, doctor's appointments to schedule, or feedback to give. Amanda blocks a large chunk of time for these, which she calls mosquito tasks. Anytime a small item pops up during the week, she simply writes it down in a running checklist and forgets about it because she knows that she has already blocked off time to take care of them at the end of her week. If you read Redeeming Your Time by Jordan Rayner, one of my favorite books of all time, this is really similar to the principle of having a commitment tracker, where you write down all of your to-dos immediately so you can forget about them and triage them later on. I know that with meetings and smaller tasks that happen later in her day, Amanda does work more than 3 hours some days, but her focus and intentional effort are a huge reason why she has seen an incredible amount of success in her career. She's a great follow on Twitter and LinkedIn as well if you found her tips useful. Our second newsletter today comes from Andy Austin, founder of AdSora and producer of the Growth Catalyst newsletter. He is an exceptional marketer and focuses on helping companies grow their newsletters and business profitably with ads. I love his focus on profitability, as this is sometimes overlooked in the ad space. I've really enjoyed his content, and his recent edition covering top reasons that ads fail is particularly crucial. He lays out 9 reasons, and we'll go through 3 that I think any business professional should keep in mind. The first is your ad needs to be clear on what the customer will get, and the landing page, assuming your ad directs to your website, needs to back that up. If you are targeting someone who has never heard of you before, and there is even a split second of confusion on what your company does or how it can help them, they will keep scrolling. You have to treat ads like your first impression on someone. And when they are scrolling on social media or scrolling through Google results pages, they will take the first available opportunity to scroll right past you and forget you. And I think people forget that if a customer clicks your ad, goes to your website, and then sees that it looks different or completely mismatches what was in the ad in terms of content, there's no faster way to get someone to bounce. The second point is super critical, but not something we need to spend a lot of time on. If you are going to spend money to run ads, give them at least a month before making major decisions or shutting them off. Ideally, you would let them run even longer, but at minimum, you should be committing to 4 weeks so that you have some limited data to work with and make decisions off of. The final point that I want to drive home from this newsletter and why ads fail is that the rest of the sales process is not good. Great ads can't fix a terrible sales funnel. You should only be running ads if you have a really solid sales process and happy customers. Otherwise, you are paying money to simply compound your problems. So far, we've covered a lot of details about paid ads, and if you aren't in a position in your business to run them, or maybe you don't even need them to grow your company, I want to highlight a big takeaway here. If you don't solve root problems in your business, then growing your business is only going to make a bigger mess for you. In the case of ads, if you run ads and get a ton of leads, but then don't have a solid sales process to close them, you won't make any more money. But think about other areas of business where this is true. You might be scrambling to get people in the door because your team is at capacity. But if you don't have any onboarding processes, you're going to have a sink or swim onboarding experience that will produce a lot of churn and keep you on the hunt for more people. Or if you don't have solid customer support, bringing in more sales is going to make a mess for that team who will suddenly be drowning in tickets without any solid processes or technology to help them work more efficiently. I get that there are many situations where you need to make things up as you go in the startup world, but assuming that more sales or more headcount or more growth will solve all of your problems is usually not the case. Quick break here. Hey, if you're looking to advertise to busy business professionals or promote your business podcast to a similar audience, I would love to hear from you. Let's get your message in this spot on the next episode. Now, back to the show. Our final newsletter highlight of the episode is another edition of the Growth newsletter written by Neal O'Grady at Demand Curve. You may remember them from episode 1, but if you haven't listened to that one already, Demand Curve is an ad agency for startups, and they write fantastic content on everything from marketing and sales to high-level strategy for growing businesses. They also have an audience of over 100,000 readers, and today's edition is another recent one that I really liked that was just sent out in October. The topic of the newsletter is the art of competitor bashing. I think they wisely make the disclaimer right at the beginning that this is risky territory for a brand and should only be used by challengers in a competitive environment and not incumbents, which we will cover in a minute. But first, we'll cover the art and then move on to the risk. The first tactic they highlight is throwing subtle shade or alluding to your competitor. The example they gave was a Surreal protein cereal billboard campaign. Surreal, the brand name, designed the ad spots to feature their product with clever copy that alluded to giant competitors. Don't tell Tony, but low-sugar cereal is great. Snap, crackle, and jacked. And it's special, okay? Totally go after Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, Rice Krispies, and Special K brands, respectively. For a brand with low name recognition, this can be a perfect way to cleverly get someone's attention and instantly give people a frame of reference for what their product is. The second tactic is to start with a fact and then build on it. The two examples in the newsletter were classic ads for McDonald's and Corvette. McDonald's ran an ad with signs to the nearest drive-thru on the side of a highway. McDonald's was 3 miles away, while Burger King's was 300 miles away. The ad copy highlighted how many more drive-thrus McDonald's had nationwide than Burger King at the time. The Corvette ad has the classic line that you may have heard before: "They don't make songs about Volvos." Both of these ads are better for highlighting advantages of your brand over another because, as always, when playing the comparison game, you have to be able to win it. Finally, we have my personal favorite tactic and campaign they highlighted, which is making fun of competitor stereotypes. Apple did this brilliantly in the mid-2000s with their Mac versus PC ad campaign. If you aren't familiar, they literally personified themselves as cool and PCs as very dull and boring people. They ran a series of them for a couple years and helped solidify themselves as the trendier, cutting-edge computer option, a brand image that they still hold to this day. We covered a couple of great tactics and examples that help you get in the frame of mind to make your own competitor-targeted ads. But I do want to take a moment to highlight how much risk is involved with bringing your competitors directly into your advertising. First of all, if you are the incumbent or a pretty well-known name in your industry, mentioning or alluding to your competitors only helps them build brand awareness. There's a lot more upside for them than there is for you. It's far worse for a brand to remain forgotten and unknown than to be in the spotlight of comparison, even if they lose that particular comparison game. Christopher Lockheed of Category Pirates harps on this frequently, that when you compare yourself to a competitor, you subconsciously signal that they are the standard in the industry. This is why, in most cases, when you see competitor advertising, it is a challenger brand, like Surreal cereal, making a comparison to very well-known ones, or two well-known brands like Coke or Pepsi, or Mac or PCs going at each other with facts or stereotypes. In the case of two large brands, they're really not concerned that the other is going to be that much more well-known, since there is already pretty wide name recognition for both of them. In the examples from this newsletter, only McDonald's really stood out as probably not gaining anything from comparing their drive-thru coverage to Burger King's. Burger King wasn't nearly the household name that McDonald's was at the time that the ads ran, and even now doesn't have the same coverage of stores. McDonald's definitely put themselves at risk of giving Burger King free awareness in markets where BK didn't yet exist. All of this is to say, if you're thinking about comparing yourself to your competitors in an upcoming advertising campaign, consider carefully the consequences of doing so. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, you can find sign-up links and more information about Amanda Goetz, Growth Catalyst Club, and Demand Curve in the show notes. I have no affiliation with any of these newsletters other than really enjoying their content, and I hope you get the chance to check them out. And if you liked this episode, check out episodes 1 and 2. We featured demand curve in the very first one as well. If you have a newsletter or business topic that you want to see me highlight in a future episode, please reach out. My contact information is also in the show notes, and I would love to hear from you. And finally, if you enjoyed the episode, it is 100% free to you to leave a rating on Spotify or a thumbs up on YouTube. It would mean a lot to me, and I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks again, as always, for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Business Newsletter Recap Podcast.